It's us. Oh, we go? Are we go? We are Square Go.
So slick.
Yeah. What's up, mother lovers? I'm Steed, filmmaker and musician. Got yours, Sandy, filmmaker as well. And Ian, as usual, filmmaker. And today, our special guest is Spencer Collings. You can applaud now, audience. Let's hear it. Cool. So today we're going to talk about Spence's career, which is basically coming out of military, if I'm right, and then getting I was going to say indicted.
Military-wise, and then sort of spent a little period of time working in the security industry.
Cool.
So I went from there, really sort of had a bit of a brainwave and went into TV and film. It's been like that ever since.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. So for those of you that don't know, Spence has worked with some amazing stars like Guy Pearce, Casper Van Dien, and even got punched in the face by Thomas Jane.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And it didn't hurt.
And Rami Malek, Lawrence Fishburne.
Recently, yeah. Last year, yeah. On
Amazing.
a production called The Amateur.
Awesome. Cool. So there's a brief overview, and we'll get started and go more in depth, right?
Dive deeper.
So, cool. So, as you can guess, Spence's accent's a little different from ours. So, do you want to tell us about where you're from originally?
Yeah. I was born in Ipswich in Suffolk, so you'd think I'd have a bit of a Carrot Crunchers accent, but I don't. So, spent most of my time living in London, so that's where the accent sort of comes from. And I don't really have a place I call home, but I would say if I was to call a place home, I would say it would be London. So I spent a lot of my friends live in London. I was stationed in London a lot when I was in the forces. So that's probably why I would call home.
Mm. Yeah. Cool. So then, so did you grow up in London then, and then with the...
how long have you got? So I was... how far do you want to go back? So,
well, I mean, we'll keep it kind of brief.
I'll keep it brief. So basically, I went through the care system from the age of 6 months. I was in care homes, foster cares and stuff like that. And then from the age of 12 and a half, I was in sort of like a young offenders institution. So sort of like a GV lockup from the age of 12 and a half to 16.
Sort of like Scum, Ray Winston.
Yeah, just didn't experience the greenhouse effect.
Yeah, the greenhouse effect.
Yeah. That's deep. But no, so I was there for about 3.5 years, and that sort of really gave me a kick up the arse because I was a runaway kid. I didn't have anyone there as a mentor or anything like that at all when I was young. So when I was there, we had sort of ex-servicemen who run the houses and stuff like that, and each house had about 18 boys in it. And there was 4 houses, and it's based in the New Forest in Hampshire. So I was there for about 3.5 years, and then after leaving there, that's when I went into the boys' service at the age of 16.
Right.
Cool. And then is the boys' service a sort of precursor to the army?
Yeah, basically what it is, it's young men aged from the age of, I think it's 15 and 9 months. I might be wrong. And up to the age of 17 and a half, I think it is. So I joined just after my 16th, and it was based in Nuneaton in Warwickshire. So we had a whole year of training there.
Right.
I think there was 56 of us that joined in my troop, and 24 of us passed out.
Right.
Yeah, so we had one guy drop out on the first night.
Right.
Yeah, so it was
greenhouse effect.
Not that extreme, no. But he was there apparently because of his mummy. So that's the reason why he went. That's what we were told by the sergeant anyway when we were briefed down when we come out of the block. But so I spent about a year there, and I think from coming straight out of juvie lockup, I was more into fitness and stuff like that. So when I got there, I found it quite, I wouldn't say easy, but I found it more easy than others on the fitness side, and the routines you had with getting up at Sparrow's Fart in the morning, and then having to do block jobs like cleaning and stuff like that, and then drills and skills and stuff like that. So I found it easier than others. So for that year, for me, I found it quite enjoyable.
So what did you go into after that for the forces?
Yes. So I did a year's boys' service. Yeah. Then I was stationed to a unit in London. So I did a year there before my colour service, and then I did 6 years colour service. And then I left the forces. I decided to leave the forces. We all have our reasons, but I left for good reasons. Yeah. And then I ventured out into America, where most of my family live.
Yeah.
And did you after your military service, you went into security. Is that
I
right?
did, yeah. So I ventured off out to America. The reason I went out to the States is I wanted to get into TV and film. And I went to an agency out there called Robert and Powell Acting Agency in Vegas. I don't know if they're there still. I've got no idea. But I cut a long story short. I went there. They offered me a 5-year contract in New York or LA, and then I had to go and apply for a work visa. I went and applied for a work visa, and I put my father's name on there. Not knowing at the time my dad was currently serving 9 years in penitentiary in Las Vegas. So they went, boom, fuck off, you're not coming in.
What was the contract for?
It was a 5-year sort of drama contract, like an acting contract. Yeah, so I was a bit gobsmacked when they offered it to me.
Yeah.
After coming straight out of the forces.
Had you done acting at all?
No, I'm just very out there.
Yeah.
I'm a people's person. I like to speak and get to know people. So I think when I went in there, maybe they saw that. They did a screen test with me for a shampoo brand, I think it was.
Right.
And then the lady came back in and said, right, we'd love to take you on, but you need to get a work visa. So that fell flat on its arse, and then I came back to the UK.
Right.
So I was only allowed there for 3 months. Otherwise, they hunt you down and you're out there for 10 years, yeah.
So were you bitten by the bug at that point and thought, like, I want to try my hand at this? Because
I've always wanted to do it because when I was in juvie lockup, one of my favourite subjects was drama. Mm-hmm. So I used to write school plays, and I used to write all sorts from a very young age. And it's quite bizarre because at the age of 12 and a half, I had a reading age of a 5.5-year-old. Right. Because I didn't really have much education. So it was all over the place, really. But then in these classes at the school, there was no more than about 4 or 5 people in the class. So you'd have a lot more time with a teacher. So my English reading and literature and spelling and stuff like that improved. Yeah. So then I started using my wacky head to write things. And I've always been involved in that. So I used to sit down and watch films with my grandfather, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and stuff like that. So I've always been involved in this sort of industry, I think, from a young age, just not knowing where it was going to lead.
Yeah. Creative writing isn't something I would have imagined that people were doing in juvie,
No, I think it was more time consuming because we were regimented. A lot of the guys there were ex-services. They were either ex-army, ex-navy, and you were very regimented. You get up in the morning at 6 o'clock. You would do your block jobs. You'd clean something. Then you'd go and have breakfast. Then you'd be inspected outside in your school uniform. And then you'd be taken over to the main house to assembly. Then you'd have to sit there in silence and do the assembly hall. Right. Yeah. So it was very regimented, and I was just very into creativity. I was very into food tech, drama, physical education. Yeah. I fucking hated English. Yeah. I fucking hated maths. And I despised science. I fucking hated all those 3 subjects. And I ended up with a lot of shit on some of those because I used to fuck around with the Bunsen burners in science. And, so
I tried to set things on fire and shit.
Yeah, I just fucking hated those lessons. I couldn't stand them. But when I was doing food tech or drama or PE, I excelled in those areas. Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's more of is it creativity?
Yeah, just something expressive, something that you can actually just...
Yeah, I think it's more... Because we used to have a whiteboard in juvie lockup, and it was called the expressive art board. Yeah. So you could write whatever you wanted on it. Like, fuck you, I hate Mr. Wilson, da-da-da-da. And at the end of the week, it'd be wiped off, and then you could write on it again what you want. So you'd be expressing your thoughts and feelings. Yeah. And, it was... I had a good time when I was in there. It sorted me out. Yeah. Yeah, and the military moving on sorted me out even more.
I was going to ask, sorry, I'm kind of...
No, go for it, man.
Jumping in with loads of questions. So I'd done a lot of work with my brother, especially on my first film, and he's ex-military. Yeah. And this was completely new and alien to him, but I needed a pair of hands, basically, and he took to things really quickly. And I think he kind of applied the same doctrine that he'd had in all the time he'd been serving that was... like be on time, stick to a schedule, prepare, like think about kind of just think the whole day ahead and think about what you're going to need at each stage and stuff like that.
Pre-planning prevents piss poor performance.
Yeah, he's so
it's that's the ethos we go by. Pre-planning prevents piss poor performance, and it's a case of if you're there on time, then people acknowledge you that you're on the ball. Yeah, and that's how I work in the industry now. I'm always early. To ensure, in case there's things that need to be sorted prior to arriving on set or anything like that. Yeah. And it's how I've been from a very young age, and I've had it drilled into me from a young age from being in juvie lockup. Yeah. And I do think going there sorted me out. Yeah. It really did sort me out.
Well, that was kind of what I was hinting at was I've never been able to work out with my brother whether he's like that anyway, or whether it's the military side of him that's like that he can apply a kind of like a regimented way of working, and he can work pragmatically. But I guess it's somewhere in between. It's like you have that kind of desire to work in a structure and to like fit into a framework, but at the same time, you know, military is going to kind of help you.
It does. It helps you adjust. But I'll be honest with you. From when I left the military and went into security, I've worked with some guys within the security sector who are not ex-military and they're very fucking good at their job.
Yeah.
And I've also worked with ex-servicemen who worked in the security sector and they're shit.
Right.
So it's peaks and troughs really of who you come across when you work in different sectors in job environments. And it's, you know, you get it in the military. You know, you got good eggs in the military, you got bad eggs in the military.
Yeah.
I think it happens in any establishment that you work in. But I just think if I'm more drawn to professional people.
Yeah.
I'm more drawn to people who go by old school values, core values. You know, loyalty, respect, and things like that. I've had that drilled into me from a very young age. You know, so I've got like a sixth sense when I know someone's going to talk shit, was bullshitting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I keep it up here, and
that'd be very handy, I imagine. In the entertainment industry,
it's very, very handy. Yeah, it's very, very handy. And but at all times, you know, I always maintain my work ethics in any environment I work in.
Yeah,
it has to be done. Yeah.
So how did you end up blending your military experience with film? How did you?
So basically what it was, so I did my time service in the military and then I left. I had a few jobs in different areas. I even did steel erecting in Ballina in West Island. And I was out there for, I think, nearly 6 months and erecting steel for this Coca-Cola factory. We were working at, like, clambering about 200 foot up in the air, hooking these ladders on and climbing. I love heights, it doesn't bother me. But then I was going in and out of jobs and I was thinking, then I was going into security and I set up a little security business with a small man team. And I got speaking to a good friend of mine called Rocky Williams, and I've known him. I used to train with him mixed martial arts, and I had a chat with him, and he just said, "You ever thought about getting into TV and film?" And I was like, "Nah." I said, I've tried that. You know, when I went to the States, and it didn't really work out. I said, I'm really more focused on setting a business up in the security sector. And he said, "Well, there's some stuff going on in this film as extras." I was like, "All right." So I had a look, and then I thought, "Fuck it, I'll give it a go." And I went onto set. And I thought, this is actually quite similar to being in the military and doing security, where it's structured. And there's like, you've got your director, you've got your producers, you've got your production managers, you've got your heads of department. I think this is sort of set up, the structure's quite similar. And the way it runs, it's quite similar as well. And I thought, you know, I actually do like this.
Yeah.
So I started from the bottom and worked my way up as an extra.
Yeah.
And I've been in it now coming up to 10 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
And were you just waiting for your chance to be able to sort of give your input on?
I've held back a lot because I respect those that have allowed me to come into this industry, and I think that's where people fall on their arse quite a bit. Is they sort of run before they walk, and I think if you hold back and listen to your peers and take on that advice and be loyal and respectful to them, you'll develop a lot more within the industry. I think those that step over those that have helped them. And try to run before they walk and think they're somewhere that before they're not, they fall flat on their arse. Yeah. And that's not, like I said, I've had that drilled into me from a very young age to have those core values. And it's a case of, I always respect those that have given me a way into the industry. It's like the military advising side of things. I started military advising in 2018. The year before, I was working on Vanity Fair for the Devil's Horseman. So I've rode horses since I was 14. I love riding horses. It's my thing. I love it. So I was working for the Devil's Horseman, and one day one of the grooms, I think, fell ill, and the horse master said, "Spence, can you run the floor?" And I was like, "Yeah, no stress, I can do that." And one of the military advisors, I think, was watching me from a distance, and then he spoke to me, and I think I got on a horse, and I had a bag on the floor, and I think he handed me the bag, and there's that connection. I added him on social, he then added me, and there's that connection, and then we spoke a few times. I didn't get pushy, because it's not what I do. And then from out of the blue, I think it was October 2018, I think it was, he gave me a call and said, "Look, I've got a job for you. It's working on the pilot episode for Pennyworth. It's a military funeral from the 1960s. That's all I'm going to tell you." I went, no fucking pressure then. Didn't say it on the phone to him, but I thought when I got off the phone, I thought, no fucking pressure. So I researched and I thought, well, Winston Churchill's funeral was in the 60s. I looked at the way that was set up. And then I got a load of stuff drawn up and I laminated it so it was all there ready to go in my bag. I turn up early, like I said, turn up early, show you're keen.
Yeah.
I then produced it to the first AD. I then produced it to the director. The director moved a couple of things around and I said, okay, that's cool. We did a couple of rehearsals. We went for about 3 or 4 takes, and we wrapped. We were done by 1:30, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the day's shoot was due to go to about 5 or something like that. I'm not too sure. I can't remember.
Pennyworth is underrated, man.
It's majorly underrated.
Really good show that didn't really take off.
It's majorly underrated. And the guy who plays the lead in it, he's a very good actor. Mm-hmm. And the cast around him are very good actors as well. And they're good. They're nice people to work for as well.
If anyone doesn't know, Pennyworth is about a young Alfred. Is that right? Alfred from Batman.
Yeah.
But there's not so much sort of superhero type stuff going on. It's more so.
It's more nitty gritty, sort of London sort of thing feels to it, like.
And he's ex-SAS, is it? And so there's like some flashbacks to them at war and stuff.
He is, but the military aspects to it are not sort of. They're not sort of how we see it. It's a bit made up.
There's a sort of alternate future, right? So it's the 60s, but it's not post-apocalyptic, but there's a sort of vibe that it's. A sort of darker past than what we actually have.
It's a good TV series, and if anyone hasn't seen it who's listening, I'd highly recommend it. I liked working on it. I was on it for a period of time, but after I finished working on that production, I think the first AD contacted Paul. So the guy's name's Paul Biddis. I've got a lot of respect for the man. He brought me into the industry as a military advisor, so I'll forever be loyal to that man. And I'd say he's one of if not the biggest military advisor in TV and film, as we stand. He's recently worked with Ridley Scott on Napoleon, and he's just wrapped on Gladiator too. Nice. So that's huge, huge, and he's done a lot. So I think that, going back to what I was saying, I think the first AD contacted him and said, "Look, you guys done a good job." He then rang me up and said, "Well done. I'm happy."
Yeah.
I think it was like a trial thing.
Yeah.
It was like if you fuck up, you're out the door. But I think I got the tick in a box for that one.
So was that horses is that what you were saying you were doing for the...
It was a military thing, but what it was a military funeral.
Yeah.
So I had a carriage with horses, with the coffin.
Yeah.
And that had a like a band, and then like people behind. So if I explain it, go too deep. But basically, it's just like a military funeral.
Yeah.
So you got the pallbearers and that behind.
Big set. Like
it was filmed in Brompton Cemetery in London.
Right.
Where a lot of films and TV series are filmed. I think Gangs of London had a few things in there in season 2. But so it wasn't a big location, but it was for me, for a first time shot of doing something like that for a pilot episode. It was big for me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put my all into it, but I didn't want to be too over enthusiastic. So the director think, who's this prick?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because we're there to advise.
Yeah.
We're not there to tell them what to do. We're there to advise. So we can suggest things, and if they say no, we go, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So then they go for a take. They might do a playback, and then the director might say, do you know what? We will go with what you said. And I go, okay, that's great. So they sometimes take those things on board, but we're not the final product of what you see on your screen. We're just there to advise. So sometimes people watch productions of military stuff, and they go, well, who the fuck is a military advisor on this? That's a load of shit.
Yeah.
And it's not always down to us. We're not always on set either. They might just get in for pre-production training days and then a few days on filming days because the budget doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
But then they might have to then do reshoots and bring us back in. So we just give what we can to just make those actors look slightly better than what they are, and the supporting actors and the extras.
Yeah.
And any military aspects around like weapons handling and vehicles and anything like that too. So we're just sort of like the eyes and ears, and we're sort of on the shoulder of the director and stuff like that, and we just sort of give them friendly advice.
Yeah. See, for me with Dynamite, there's certain things I remember people like, oh, that wouldn't be like that in real life. It would be like this or that. Or things would look like this.
Fingers on triggers.
But there was things like special effects and things that I would do, and people, it wouldn't be like that. And I was like, but it looks... To me, I was like, the way I'm doing it looks better on camera. Yeah. And like, but for an expert like yourself, are you sort of like?
The thing is, because you're the boss. The director's the boss. He's my boss. He's the one who says, yeah, we'll have him on board. It's the producers that the line producers and the producers. You have meetings. Normally, when you do a Zoom call for a production, whether that's me when I do stunt coordinating or military advising, we have a call. Normally with Paul, he does all the pre stuff, and then he sends that to me, and then I look at it, and then I go onto set and do my job. So I mirror how he works.
Yeah.
But it's sort of we listen to what goes on, and
Yeah.
It may be on the odd occasion where I'm stood there going, fucking hell, that's not right. So I changed my wording of how I sort of express it to the director.
Yeah.
And then maybe an actor might come on board and say, yeah, do you know what? That might actually be better. So then I've got someone else on my shoulder. So it's like playing it tactically.
Yeah.
So you don't get the fuck him off, let's get someone else here.
The
Because the director, sometimes they do the writing.
Yeah.
And they wrote this maybe a year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's their baby. And if someone's just coming along for a couple of days and you're doing all this finger pointing, they're like, who the fuck is this dick?
Yeah.
You know? So you've got to be very
diplomatic about it.
Yeah.
The same,
Very much so.
The same goes for everything on a set. I mean, like camera work, cinematography.
100%.
You argue your case, but it's the director's vision at the end of the day.
100%. And the DOPs, a lot of directors work very closely with DOPs. So you'll get a director of photography who will work back to back on productions with the same director because they know each other inside out.
Yeah.
And then you'll get heads of department will be working very closely because what they do is, prime example is Guy Ritchie. He has a cool team of people he works with.
Yeah.
He's got a first AD called Barney, who I've worked with on a couple of occasions. He knows he can leave him on set. He knows that he will do that and come back and it's not a clusterfuck, i.e. a mess.
Yeah.
Because that's building trust and respect and loyalty, and that's the core values you hold within the industry.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I say to people when you come into this sort of industry, you know, I've only been in it nearly 10 years. To me, that's not very long. I know people have been in it 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Do you know what I mean? That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's like half your life dedicated to an industry.
Yeah.
But with myself, you know, I say to people, if you're going to come into this industry, learn from others, keep your ego in a box, and just develop your skill sets. Whether that's working in makeup department, costume department, SFX department, VFX department, i.e. in the post. You know, you learn from your peers. Take those things on board. Because if you try to overstep others, the industry is very small. Mm-hmm. Everyone seems to think, oh, no one's going to find out that I'm a dick. But the industry is very small. It is very, very small. The amount of times I've worked on different sets and I've gone, oh, bloody hell, I haven't seen you since so-and-so. And they're like, oh, how have you been? And it's just like, it's very small and contained.
Yeah.
And you find that there's certain heads of department that will be running certain productions.
Yeah.
And they'll have certain members working with them because they can trust them. It's a domino effect coming down to even to runners. I respect anyone that works on a set, from catering to transport to runners. I respect every department because we're all a team at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And if you frown upon one team, you're basically sticking your fingers up to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so it's a team effort all round.
Yeah.
We've got a saying in Scotland, many a mickle makes a muckle.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah. I love it.
Sorry, mate, I'm not from round here.
Basically, it's what you just said. It's what you just said.
Yeah.
Many people contribute to the final thing.
100%. And it's, you know, we all want an end product that people can look at and go, you know, I work my arse off to do that. You know, I work all these hours at God's send, and you know, not just in the actual filming of it. You got to think about pre-production and post-production as well. A lot of heads of department are still involved in that because if they're having to do reshoots and stuff like that, you know, they're still involved. So yeah, you've got anyone who's looking to come into this industry. I would strongly advise to just keep that ego in a box and just learn from your other peers, learn from people who've been in it for a while. You know, like I said, I started off as an extra, so I was one of these people who was just carted off in a line or in a group.
Yeah,
and, right,
hanging around all day.
And to me that was easy because as myself, you know, I would sit there with a book and read a book, and if I wasn't reading a book, I'd be talking to someone else about some other work that I was doing, and it'd be a case of you get other people there moaning, going, "Oh my god, I've been sat around for like 7 hours."
Yeah,
it's just like,
totally. Yeah,
you're getting fucking paid.
Yeah. This is the nature of the job.
Yeah, it's just the way the job is, you know. And whenever this is something else as well that my boss advises this as well, Paul Billis. He you know, we say to people on set, you get these eager beavers that are like, oh, I want to go front of camera.
Yeah.
And you sort of stop and you say, these are the extras, by the way, not the actors. So you say to them, you say, if you want to go front of camera, that's cool, but you may only get 2 days on set. Well, why is that? Because continuity. Because if you're front of camera, you're on the screen and they see your face and that's it. You're off. Yeah. I said, if you go background or deep background, you might get 2-3 weeks worth of work. So then what I was starting to get people going, I'm not going forward. I'm not fucking going in front of the camera. Do you know what I mean? But it's
just more work.
But it just tones them down a bit because they all want to get in front of the camera a lot, and it's just like learn your craft.
Yeah.
Learn your craft. You know,
I mean, there's a lot of people like that we've taken on that don't have a film background and stuff, but just their mindset are they're like really hard workers and stuff, and it's just been like, okay, this is your task, and they've been absolutely amazing. And there's people we've worked in that are professional,
I can guarantee you that all the way through this part of the conversation, you've had a couple of faces in your mind.
No,
because I certainly have.
This is one thing I never do. If someone's good at what they do, I mention their name. If someone's a fucking arsehole, I don't mention their name.
Oh no, we won't be mentioning.
That's something I never do. It's just like, you know, I get people saying to me, "Oh, who's the worst actor you've ever worked with?" And I says, "Well, there's been some dicks, but." You know, but then they say, "Who's the best actor?" And I said, "Well, it's this person. You know, I had a bloody good time with them. You know, and it was a pleasure to work with them." But I think you just got to remain grounded in this industry. It's a hard industry to get involved in. Because there are levels. You know that you've got micro budgets. So that's right. You've got student stuff. Then you got short films. Then you got micro budgets. Then you got low independent features, middle range independent, high end features. Then you got multi-million-pound product. There are levels in this industry, but you can get to the top level.
Yeah,
it can be achieved. I've seen people with my own eyes do it. I've seen a guy that I worked with on a student thing way back when I first started, and I could tell straight away. I thought he's going places because he was keen and not overly keen, but he was keen enough to be noticed. And then I saw him on a big production about 5 years later, and I was like, "Fucking hell, mate, fair play."
So, did you say you've been about 10 years in the industry?
Nearly coming up to 10 years, yeah.
And how have you seen it change, I guess, was going to be my first question. Because we have mixed feelings about what we do, which is obviously, you know, we're scrabbling for money to make kind of very low-budget indie films. And getting those films out there and getting distribution, that whole model's completely changed as well. So there seems to be no money at the the front end, and there's not a lot of money at the other end either. But
no,
you know, I don't know how it's affecting.
I would say recently we had the SAG strikes last year in America. I think there's been a knock-on effect from that. There's been a lot of productions that have been put on hold. There's been a lot of productions that have been shelved. They're never going to see the light of day.
Yeah.
You know, it might have been in pre-production, but it's actually going to go nowhere because investors are pulled out because they're a bit worried how the industry's changing. Financial-wise, with low independent features, I write as well. So when I write things which has minimal characters in it in minimal locations, because the least characters you got and the least locations you got, the less money you need to spend.
Yeah.
I think people that are overexcited about things, they put tons of characters in it, tons of locations, and they're like, shit, we've only got about...
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just like, the first part you described Ian, and then the second part you described
So
Robert.
me personally, you know, if I was going to have if I was to go on to direct, because my end goal is to go that route. It may be in 10 years, 20 years, who knows, I don't know, but that's my end goal. But if I was to do something like that, if I was to ever do that, I would have maybe 3 or 4 characters in one location. Boom. That's and as long as you've got a good script and a good story that people can fixate on, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that end bit is like, fuck, I want to see more of what this guy's done.
Yeah,
that's good. But you can also, the flip side of it is, you can have loads of locations, you can have loads of characters, but you can have a fucking fucked up storyline, which is interesting, which is similar to what you did. You know what I mean? I watched that and I thought it's wacky as fuck.
Yeah.
It's wacky as fuck, and it's good the way it's been done.
Yeah.
But I draw more towards the less is best, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it forces you to be creative. If you're thinking, you know, I want to say everything I want to say, but in 5 characters and in 3 locations or whatever.
It's like dialogue. For instance, I'm writing something at the moment with a stand-up comedian. I'm also writing something at the moment with a known actor. So it's when you do the writing. This is just my personal opinion. You know, anyone out there has a different opinion. That's fair enough. But I find you can express words here. So you don't need to say too much in a script.
Yeah.
It can be expressed in the face or actions or prop. Do you know what I mean? It can be expressed anyway. So that's minimising the script down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? A full length feature should be between, I think it's 89 to 96 pages. I may be wrong, but it's between that, I think.
Yeah, they say about a minute a page, roughly.
Yeah, and you get, when I first started writing, I did a script and it was 142 pages, and this guy read it and he tore it an arsehole. He said, you need to sack about 60 pages out of that, mate. And I was like, what?
I heard an interesting story from Taika Waititi, and I don't know if this is true, but he basically said that he'll write a script and then he'll like bury it somewhere, and shelf it and delete it everywhere apart from one thumb drive, and then he'll come back to it a couple of years later, and he'll start, he'll read it once and then he'll delete it and rewrite it, and basically whatever gets rewritten at that moment in time. That's what he took from his 200-page script.
Yeah.
And he can only remember like 60, 70 pages or something like that, but that's the essence of it, because everything else was just white noise, So he ends up with a kind of distilled version of it. And is that an important call, Gary?
We're going to have to acknowledge this now, Gary.
Oh, dear. No, I think it's a good way to work. Directors have their way. So I look up to everyone says this guy's name, but Quentin Tarantino. Do you know what I mean? He wrote True Romance.
Yeah.
And Ridley Scott's brother directed it.
Yeah.
Fuck me, you couldn't get two good people together. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the cast in it were just amazing. But the storyline, if you watch True Romance, there isn't a lot of dialogue in it, apart from there's a scene where he's got him in the
Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken.
Yeah, that scene's just is amazing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like you watch that film and you can feel the vibe of the two lead characters without them even speaking.
Yeah.
And the way he writes that is just phenomenal, the way he wrote it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I was just going to say, what you were saying about you can do it with your face.
100%.
It reminded me of Roger Deakins talking about Sicario, talking about Benicio del Toro, and saying he'd never seen an actor do this before, but Benicio del Toro was reading his lines and just saying, I don't need to say this. I can do it with my eyes or whatever. And he was saying, give this line to Josh. Yeah. And then he had Josh Brolin on, and he was chatting to him, and he was like, yeah, fucking Benicio del Toro kept giving me his dialogue.
You see, I've seen actors on the set that sell it in their face.
Yeah.
Guy Pearce, I was listening to it plugged into a monitor in a video village while it was being filmed on the set, and I was fucking rolling with tears.
Yeah.
And I don't really show my emotions in front of people, but there were loads of people around me and people going, "You all right?" And I was like, this is fucking deep. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because the way he was portraying this character, it's called The Infernal Machine. It's a really good film. But the scene that I saw when I was there, I was rolling with tears, and I don't normally show my emotions in front of people. But it was just the way he was portraying his character, and I was working on it prior to that, and all the scenes, the build up with it and stuff like that. So I knew how the character was developing. But this scene that he done was just like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
And he's a very good actor.
Yeah.
And he's a fucking nice guy to work with as well. You know, he's very down to earth. He eats with the crew. You know, he talks to the crew. Nice. He's just very down to earth, and you just think, fuck, some of these top actors are like that.
Yeah, that the scene you mentioned in True Romance as well, for me, like one of the most powerful moments of that is when he just says, I think I'll have one of those Chesterfields. And the dialogue stops and everything goes quiet and the music builds a bit, but he just takes a cigarette and lights it, and you can see at that moment he's like, he knows what's going to happen.
Oh, he knows.
And he's just, that's when the real power of the scene comes. Like,
and how much dialogue was there?
Yeah.
You don't need to sell it. It's like the shootout at the end.
Yeah.
When he says, I think he says, like, you fucked me over or something, you motherfucker, you'll never get another job from me or something, then there's a massive shootout.
Yeah.
And it's just mental.
There's a few American films that, I don't know, not that you take for granted, but a lot of them are very yappy. I don't mean Americans in general, but I mean like the movies.
They're big in most areas, yeah.
But I mean like Drive, for instance. I think it was a Danish director.
I've never seen it.
You know, and
never seen
it's
it.
very minimal dialogue. You know, a lot of it's just actions and facial, and same with what's the other one?
Quest for Fire.
Quest for Fire.
What's that one?
Quest for Fire it's a caveman film.
Right.
So it's all just ooh. Yeah,
Isn't that the one that I saw a thing on the
Ron
other day?
Perlman.
Ron Perlman.
It's one of Ridley Scott's favourite films as well, I think.
Right. Yeah, it's an old film, but the most mental thing about it is that half of it is filmed in Kenya and half it's filmed in the Highlands.
Oh yeah, and
in Scotland.
but it uses the two locations in the same sequence.
Yeah.
It's completely mental.
It's not like two different environments. This is like just one scene will just transition into
It's like Serengeti, and then you're in Glencoe, and then you're just like, what the hell is going on? But it's worth a watch if you're interested in communication without dialogue.
What year was that, mate?
70s
or 80s?
Maybe like 80, around 80,
Late
I think.
80s.
Right.
Yeah, I'll give that one a butcher's.
I always thought it was about the same time as Star Wars. I always thought it was like late 70s. But yeah, you might be right. But yeah, it's a crazy film.
Films in general, I work as a military advisor. I also work as a stunt coordinator as well. I work my way up from the top. I work as an independent stunt coordinator, so I'm not part of the British Stunt Register. There's the people who are on that, the elites of the elites. You know what I mean? I respect everyone that are on that.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm now at an age now where if I cause an injury, if I have an injury, it's going to take 3 or 4 months to heal, and it's just like I've sort of been lucky enough to go on to do stunt coordinating through people I know in the industry, and I forgot where I was going there with this.
Well, yeah,
Spun off.
Well, it's good that you've introduced the stunt coordinating, because I was going to ask about that as well. I'm sure Steve was going to take us in that direction too. But one of the first questions I had was about we were speaking to the guy we know that does stunts and fight choreographer Carter, and he was, one of the things he said was, for him, someone needs to be a good actor first.
Yes.
And if they can act, then they can pull off a fight, or they can pull off a stunt. They're much more likely to be able to do it. So
sell it.
So exactly.
It's true.
Yeah. And they're much more able to fall and stuff like that.
Well, I've got a friend in, I think he lives in Miami now, G-Rod. He's done a load of stuff. He just done the new Bad Boys film.
Oh yeah.
And he said to me, in America, they've got, this is word that he was saying to me. He was basically saying they've got some really good stunt performers in the States, but there's just a handful of them that can act.
Yeah.
So you can perform on screen, but if you're not selling in the emotions in your face, it's not really working. And there are some, there's some really good stunt guys out there. There's a guy I know called Lee Charles. Mm-hmm. You see him on screen, you can see. Yes, he's an action guy, and he can act.
Yeah.
He did I think he did the first or second episode of the Gangs of London season 1. Right. He was a guy that cut the guy up in the bath and then attacked the lead guy, and it's been known as one of the sort of best sort of stunt sort of action sequences within a TV series. Yeah. But he's a prime example of someone who can do action. He's an action actor.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So. But you do get like stunt performers that, how can I put this in a nice way? That want to be actors.
Yeah.
But they need to learn the craft.
Yeah.
I'm learning my craft at the moment.
I think what Carter was getting at was not even like actors in the sense that we all think of actors as someone that can deliver dialogue or someone that can kind of convey a different character. But I think as far as he was concerned, it was like, you might be able to fall down a flight of stairs without hurting yourself, but you need to make it look like, I don't know. There's a certain skill in the physical acting.
So you need to have those extra beats in it.
Yeah.
That sells it to the general public. Exactly. Like you've actually hurt yourself. Something like that. Yeah. Well, some performers do a lot. I started back in 2016 doing stunts, and it's just through working with someone else and working through someone else and working through someone else, getting recognised for doing that, and then I've gone on to do other things, coordinating. I get frowned upon because I'm independent, but I think I do a good job.
Yeah.
And I get good feedback, and I work TV and film doing that, but I've done about 13, 14 music videos as well. Right. I recently worked with Clean Bandit's new music video called Cry Baby. Uh-huh. So, and I did a lot of pre-production on that, finding guys and girls to work on it, getting locations locked in along with Grace. She's one of the 3 that are in Clean Bandits. You got Luke and Jack, and you got Grace. Mm-hmm. So I work very closely with them to set everything up. So like I said, I'm a team player. I won't just go, well, I'm just stunts.
So yeah, do you specialize in like, I don't know, like falls or like, you know, or
I'm more of a stand up. When I was doing stunts, I was more of a stand up stunty. So I'd be taking reactions to shots, hits, falls, jerkbacks, high falls, stuff like that.
Right.
So the more, I wouldn't put myself into a position where I would cause myself harm or harm to others or put other people's safety at risk. If I felt like someone was saying, "Oh, I've got this job for you," I'll be like, "Nah, it's not really for me, dude. You know, you need to find someone else." Or if I'm needing to get a stunt crew in, I'd make sure the guys and girls that I got on board were more than capable of seeing that through. And that safety is paramount when it comes to action and stunts, because you got to think, you got stunties on board, you've got actors there, you've got crew members around. So we do risk assessments.
Yeah.
When we do those risk assessments, we break everything down. So then that goes to the insurance companies, and they tick those off. So yeah, that's all good. That's all hunky dory. But then we also do risk. We do dynamic risk assessments on the day. So we assess things while we're there. We're always assessing things to make sure everything's safe. Yeah. And sometimes you might get someone saying, "Well, no, we need to get on with this," and it's like, "Ooh, calm it down a little bit, because there's people involved here, and me just not taking notice of that might prevent that person from working for the next 2 months."
Yeah. Do you have final say on things like when it comes to, if that's the case, if like you're being pushed to make something happen, ultimately can you say, look, no, it's...
I've done it a couple of times. I won't mention the productions. I've done it a couple of times where, you know, the time we've been given to do something hasn't been long enough, and then I said, look, if we're not doing this within the next half hour, we can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's involving like high risk stunts, sort of full body burns and things like that, and that's a lot of involvement with stuff like that. It's just the setup for that is there's a big setup to do that.
That's what one of the main things I was going to move on to next, because one of the only things we didn't do is set someone on fire. And I know that
you can't just set someone on fire, because it'll be a one-off. Do you know what I mean? It's there's a lot that goes into things like that, you know. And I brought a good friend of mine, Martin Shenton, on board, because he's worked for stuff like that. And I flew a guy in from abroad called Ivan, and he did the full body burn, and he got that done because we'd worked together on something before, so we trusted each other and we ensured it was done right. But the time we were given, I was like, but they managed to turn things around, and we said, okay, we'll extend it an extra half hour and we'll do what we need to get done, and we managed to get 2 full body burns out of it.
Right.
In the space of time we were given, but I was that close to saying we can't do this. You know, and it's because I've got to think of the safety of everyone involved, and it's and then it comes to any stunt. It's like when you're training actors, sometimes the actors are very keen. Oh, I can do that, and you're just saying, you know, we've had a discussion about this with the director and everyone else. We're going to get a double in for you. Yeah, but I can do this. It's like, and you have to sort of say to them, you probably can.
Yeah.
But if you have an injury, production's on hold.
Yeah.
And then that's money from investors. That's the production on hold. That's people not working. So just bringing someone into W just for this one shot, paying them for that one occasion, gets things moving forward. And they understand. If you explain it to them, because they're keen as mustard. You know, a lot of these actors are keen as mustard, and a lot of them can do their own action. A lot of them can do their own stuff.
It must be a hell of a buzz. Like if you're all the planning that goes into the stunt, and then seeing something pulled off, like right away, just being like,
there's a lot. So if I try and contain this in one hit, I'll get contacted, and then I'll do a Zoom call. It normally is with the director and the producer, and maybe the production manager, and maybe someone else from another department. Then I sign an NDA. Then the script gets sent. I then break the script down and do the action design for it. I then do a stunt budget. I then recommend where we need to have stunt doubles and what specialised stunts we need to have in. Whether that's cars, bikes, whatever. And then they assess all that, and then we go into pre-production. So we might have previs. So that's where we're videoing everything to send it over to production for the director to view, to sign it off. And then we go into the actual filming aspects of it. So we go into it, and then the teams come in.
So with previs, are you videoing people performing kind of miniature versions of the stunts?
So what we're doing is we're literally filming that scene.
Yeah.
So I'll have someone standing in for the actor.
Yeah.
So normally what I do, I would have a vest on, and they'd have the initials of the actor on the vest.
Yeah.
Or the character. So when the director watches the actual scene, he knows who's what and what's what, and he can go from there. And if things need to be tweaked, then they get tweaked. If they don't need to be tweaked, then we just roll with that and we go into the filming aspects.
Yeah.
And then on the odd occasion, we may need to have slight pickups or reshoots. But there's a lot involved in it. You know, a stunt coordinator just doesn't turn up and point fingers.
Yeah.
There's a lot, and there's a lot that rides on you as well. You know, I have liability insurance. You have to have it. I have it through equity.
Yeah.
So anyone who does a film out there and you employ a stunt coordinator who doesn't have the liability insurance, you fuck them off because you're not covered.
Yeah.
Even I have that.
Yeah.
Come on.
So you have to have that there, so that and I have that in place. If anything comes back onto me, but I've had no issues the whole time I've been doing it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I flipped from doing stunt coordinating to military advising, and I go from one to the other. And on the odd occasion, I've stepped into doing a first AD role,
right?
And I've also acted as well. So I'm not saying I'm jack of all trades.
Yeah, we had some pictures up on screen of you in different roles. Have you done stunts yourself then?
Yes.
Well? Yeah.
When I first started out, I did stunts, and I've had a few knocks and bruises and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I damaged my coccyx on one occasion. That was through no fault of my own.
Yeah.
And that was on a production where one of the mats was moved by one of the crew, and the coordinator who was there at the time, I don't mention names, wasn't on set.
Right.
And when we came back out the set, I said, is everything still how it was? And they were like, yeah, everything's fine. And then when we did the jerk back, the mat wasn't where it was, and I hit the concrete. I had a coccyx protector on as well, so imagine what would happen if I hadn't have had that coccyx protector.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of people that work on these high-end productions, and I have the utmost respect for anybody who works on these big jobs, because you're putting your life at risk.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And it's that's why you've got to double-check things. That's why you have an assistant with you, because any sort of you have vests, jerk vests, and stuff like that. You double-check everything. If that's why you can't rush these things.
Yeah.
There has been accidents on set, and I don't know if it's the fault of that department or somebody else, but sometimes accidents do happen. We can't just have everything done and nothing ever happens. These accidents sometimes do happen, and they're far and few. But when they do happen, it's a bit fuck.
Yeah.
So I try to make sure whenever I've got anyone working with me, I ensure that we check over everything.
Yeah.
We double check, and I sometimes I have to say, can I have 2 minutes, please? Because those 2 minutes are more important than not having those 2 minutes.
Yeah. And it takes balls to do that as well, when you know that time is money.
And that's the contrast, you see. Working as a stunt coordinator, I can do that.
Yeah.
Working as a military advisor, I can't do that. I can't turn around and direct as a military advisor and say, give me 2 minutes. You go, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? So I've got to sort of change the way I am working in those different roles.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be frustrating, but I just maintain my work ethics and core values at all times, and just ensure that things are done right. And it's fun. I enjoy it.
Are we approaching time? Is that?
I was just wondering how much time we've got left for the hour mark to do our lucky dip.
Yeah.
47 minutes.
Whoa!
Oh,
Wow.
Ooh, wow.
that is
Anything else you want to roll over
nearly
before we do
time.
the lucky dip?
How did you end up here? Because you're living in Scotland now.
Not officially living here yet.
All right. Okay.
No, but I'm looking to move here.
Right.
Yeah, I do like the people. I do like Edinburgh.
Has anyone told you there's no film industry up here though?
Oh, but there is.
It's bubbling away.
It's somewhere. It's somewhere. I've sniffed it. It's somewhere. But I think because of the roles that I do within the industry, I don't really think it matters where I live in the UK.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As long as I can get to the studio and get to the location, I don't think it really matters. But
Yeah.
I find Scotland as a whole nicer. I find the people more friendlier. I find the off-grid locations are a lot nicer. London's a bit manic now. It's too overcrowded. It's too expensive. And I know a lot of people want to live there because of the industry and stuff, and there's a lot of studios there. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm getting to an age now where I just want a bit of quietness. Do you know what I mean? It's but I do. Scott, I'll let you know when I do move up here.
Right. Okay.
So, before we move on to Lucky Dip, I'm just thinking a little bits
Yeah.
and bobs I can chuck at you. How did it come about you getting punched on screen by... It was Thomas Jane, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was random as fuck, that one. Oh, God, I should remember her name. Jesus Christ. Anyway, a production manager gave me a call and said they needed a COVID marshal. No, sorry, they needed I might be wrong here. They needed a medic. They needed a medic on set and a new armourer because they were having difficulties with an armourer that they were working with. So because I've got a pool of people that I can contact through people I've worked with before with all different departments, I gave a couple of people a call and I gave them the details. And then I just said, I was just a bit cheeky. I just said, is there any roles on this production? And she said, there is actually. I was like, oh, fuck, great. I said, what is it? And she told me. And then I was like, right, great. And then she sent it over and I was like, fuck, I get punched in the face. So I was like, this is cool. It was only for a day.
Yeah.
It was just for a day. But just to be there with someone of the guy's caliber.
Yeah.
The Punisher.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And Jesse Johnson was the director. So he used to be a stunt coordinator.
Oh, okay.
And he's very good at what he's got. He's got a very good visual as a director. And I think with the action side of things, because he's been a stunt coordinator, he knows how these sort of things work. But it's quite funny. We did the first take, and he came over and he said, "Oh fuck, did he hit you then?" I was like, "No, I'm good." He said, "Fuck no, that's sold well."
Excellent. Yeah.
And I was like, "Cool."
It's a good little scene. Yeah,
It's a nice little thing, and you know, I think have I put it into my show? I can't remember, but I think I have. Yeah, but just being there with him and the others and seeing how, and I've always wanted to work with Jesse Johnson, and I'd love to work with the guy again. But you know, he has his teams, and what I won't do is step on people he works with.
Yeah.
I'll wait for him to contact me because that's how I work. You can't go stepping over others. Just go, well, I need to work with you.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that day I was there. It was solely just a day in Ipswich, and it was fun. It was good fun. And you know, a lot of these things when it comes to stunts, you know, on these productions, you might have a day or two or a week or two. It's not normally you get months unless you're on these big productions.
Yeah.
Big productions that you get months where you're out in Morocco or Malta or things like that. So I've had friends who were working on Gladiators and they were on Gladiator 2 and they were in Morocco and Malta and they were out there for months. Fair play to them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it would be the kind of film where it was just action scene after action scene after action scene.
I can't tell you, but yeah, I've been told certain things about it, but it's I can't. I've sworn that I wouldn't say nothing till it comes out. Yeah, but it's good. That's all I know. That I think it's going to be very fucking good. And I'll be honest with you, I think Ridley Scott might get. He's never had a BAFTA before as a director, has he?
Okay.
Is that right?
I don't think he has. You know, the Top Dog Awards
Yeah.
in America. I don't think he's ever got it as a director. I think he will get an award for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
About time.
Yeah.
Alright. Cool.
And I heard Russell Crowe is going to appear as a Force ghost.
As a what? As a forest.
A Force ghost.
Force Ghost like this.
oh,
It's
right.
not at the end of
Accent,
Star
sorry.
Wars.
Got you. Okay.
We'll have to wait and see.
I've heard he's taken up singing.
Oh, have you?
Have you not seen anything on YouTube?
He
where
played in,
he's singing.
Glasgow.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Russell Crowe. No.
He was in Glasgow a couple of weeks ago.
Really singing?
I think he might have not sold out the Hydro, but he played at the Hydro.
Holy
with his band.
shit.
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, he's actually quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually quite good. He's a man of many talents.
I remember being at Tea in the Park when Dogstar, Keanu Reeves' band was there, and Keanu Reeves was on bass, but I never went to see him. I can't remember. I was watching Queens of the Stone Age or something.
He's got a good relationship with the guys at Duncarron. Because remember I made a joke about him and it did not go down
Yeah,
too
it
well.
didn't go down well.
No one talks bad about Russell Crowe.
Yeah, it was sort of like, it was like they've got the battering ram from Robin Hood,
Yeah.
and it was sort of like shrine status.
Yeah.
You'd made a wee joke, and they're like, no one
The
talks
guy,
shit about Russell Crowe.
the guy grabbed me.
No way.
Yeah, he was
That's
raging.
some serious love for Russell
I was like,
Crowe.
I heard he likes a bit of scrap in that, and he was like, so would you if people were hounding you all the time. I was like, okay.
Oh dear.
So, speaking of action,
Yeah.
constant action upon action, we've got a top 3. Are we doing our lucky
No,
dip
no,
here?
that's a.
That's
Well,
next
we
time.
might
That's our
get
next
Spence
podcast,
back
yeah.
for another podcast.
right, okay.
Like if you've got the time to come back sometime.
I think so.
Yeah. But no, this is the final segment is our lucky dip. So we all selected movies for each other to watch.
Well, we also had a Lucky Dip submission this time. Someone emailed squaregoluckydip@gmail.com.
Oh, no way, our first one.
Yeah,
Right.
someone did email in.
Man, I bet that's the one I got because I'm like, who the sent me this?
I was actually really excited to watch the one I was assigned because it's madness, and I think it's year one. But I could not get it because I've been house sitting.
Damn.
So,
if it is my one,
you've not watched
it's
it?
one of my
I
favourite films.
I didn't even have a computer at my mum's that I could access films from.
You could have blagged that though. You could have just done a bit of research. You could have
So I could have. I'm too honest. But I did watch a terrible film on purpose on Amazon, so I could talk about it. Hopefully that will suffice.
Okay.
I have pre-warned Gary as
The
well.
person who emailed was yours.
Oh.
But then we had to change it because you couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we did have a submission, but we couldn't get the movie.
Shit,
Couldn't
so
find
does
it.
that mean
Get the movie.
I've got somebody's film then? Somebody that's here.
Yeah, it must be.
So what was the actual film that we couldn't find? Were we
yeah,
able
what
to
was it?
divulge that?
Oh, I need to tell you that it's great. It was Hollywood's zombie hookers.
The fuck?
Chainsaw Hookers of Hollywood. or
Chainsaw
something.
Hookers of Hollywood.
Sounds like my kind of...
Yeah, so I immediately
So
thought
you
this
thought it
is
was me?
Speed.
Man, what sort of...
I sat down to watch it. I made an evening of it and everything.
But you couldn't find it.
But I couldn't find it anywhere, unfortunately.
Well, we're all on the mission now because I think we all want to watch Chainsaw Hookers of Hollywood.
Have you got the poster for it? Because it's tremendous.
I'll bring it up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, should we start
Because of Hollywood.
this way and work our way around then?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I watched a movie called Citizen Kane.
Never heard of it.
I was hoping Robbie would get it.
I knew it was you. I could tell. I watched Citizen Kane when I was at uni. They made us watch it. It was kind of like I think really early on in first year at uni as well. It was one of those things where there was like, if we're going to talk to you about film, we need to watch Citizen Kane first. So I rewatched it, and second time round, it is only second time round, which is crazy. But I've never connected all that well with Citizen Kane because I think it's a weird film because the protagonist, Kane, isn't a guy that you warm to, like, and people. Everybody kind of says this about the film. The whole point of it is he's enigmatic, and you can't really work him out as a character. So you're watching this movie about this guy who you're not particularly interested in why he's doing what he's doing, and I find that difficult. Like, so from a storytelling point of view, I've always found it difficult to really get into. But from a technical point of view, it's
That's what it does
incredible.
for me.
Yeah. It is.
Usually, if loads of people like something, I'm like, nah. You know what I mean? Contrarian that way. Like, if a band's really cool, I'll stop listening to them or whatever. Yeah. But when I watched this film, I was like, everyone's right. This is tremendous.
I do need to watch it because I actually reference it quite a lot, and I've not even fucking seen it.
I put it in the lucky dip, so you would have to watch it.
Damn.
And it's
Yeah,
not.
I do need to watch it.
From a technical point of view, he did things that nobody had ever done before. But a lot of it is from the photography point of view, the way scenes were lit, the way that camera movement was done, and he did some beautiful long takes. I rewatched Jaws recently as well, and that was something that really jumped out at me about Jaws was really, really long single takes. And the camera will move from left to right. In Citizen Kane, it's a lot more theatrical because you can see everybody's been blocked and everything's positioned. But there's some amazing, like, really deep field shots where there's one where I remember his mother's in the foreground and there's two guys in the room. And then in the background, there's like a window with this kid playing in the snow. And everything's in focus. And you can see everything and everything's doing something different. And there's loads of shots like that where he's deliberately positioned all these things in the frame, and all these things are doing something different, and you can kind of watch them. And some of the movement, the shot I always remembered from uni was this kind of camera that goes through this sign. He uses that about 4 times or something.
Yeah, I think
But
it's
they
a
made
model.
the sign come apart.
I think it's a model,
Yeah.
and it goes through the skylight.
Yeah, and it goes through the skylight and transitions into the room. But when it goes through this, so it's like a sign on a roof. And as the camera passes through it, I think they made the sign come apart so that they could fit the camera rig through. So it's bits like that kind of even knowing how they're done, it's still impressive to see.
And I think he puts it down to not knowing anything about films.
Yeah. Well, he famously said you could learn everything. You could learn all of the camera movements and everything you needed to know about shot composition in half a day.
Yeah.
He said. And the fact he was 24 when he made it.
It's
And the
mental.
performance.
No, he looks about 80
And
in those
he
pictures.
looks about 50.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
But
wild.
the difference between the young Charles Foster Kane and the old Charles Foster Kane is really striking as well. So they've done really well with the makeup. And his performance, like, I think those are the two most standout things about it. His acting performance in the film and the technical, what he did with the DOP. And interestingly, the title card director and DOP share the title card.
Ah.
So
Well,
since
I was going to say, is that because he wrote and directed it, right?
Yeah.
Starred in it. Sorry, and is that not a very early case of that? Now it's quite common for people to written, direct and starring.
Apparently, it was a box office failure as well.
Yeah, it was pretty unheard of for a first-time director to get that kind of freedom
That
and
kind of
budget.
money,
Yeah, the DOP, I forgot his name there for a minute.
Greg
Toland.
Yes.
Thanks, Gary. I've got Gary's phone here. He went on to done. I think he was like the first superstar DP.
Yeah.
I think he was on like 200 grand a year or something at the time, which is like
When was this? What year?
1941.
1941.
Jeez, that's a lot of dollar.
Yeah, and he went on to do some of the biggest films at the time, Grapes of Wrath and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's interesting that, like, from that era, the directors that endure seem to be the technical directors, like, Hitchcock and even later on, like Kubrick. People aren't talking so much about John Ford or maybe it's just amongst filmmakers. Maybe that's one of the reasons.
Because they push the boundaries, eh?
Yeah.
They set a new standard kind of thing.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
Cool.
me.
Yeah, so I got The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight
Oh, it's an oldie, is it?
Never heard of it.
1970.
by Mick. Mick suggested it. What the heck? You guys heard or
No, I've never heard of this.
Mick. Who's Mick?
Mick's in Gary's band.
Right,
He's the fellow pickled echo.
Can I just say it's really cool that we're already getting submissions from people in like episode 3 or 4.
I don't know what the fuck to say about this film, man. It's like, what's his name? De Niro's in it. Very, very young. I mean, it's 1971, so I can't think I've seen an earlier film of De Niro in this. And he's got this hideous bowl cut, and I think he's spray tanned to look more Italian, and he speaks with an Italian accent. Basically, there's like this small time mafia gang.
Nice.
He
looks like
An Oasis fan.
A Wish version.
Like Father Karras from The Exorcist.
yeah, that vibe.
But right, you've got Knick Knack from badly dubbed Knick Knack, and you've got a real lion in it, which the Palumbo gang set on people. Like that's their sort of one up over the Balachu or whatever the main mob guy. So like
That's a
Was
bit
it
sick.
the fact they've got a real, and it's a real lion, and there's so many scenes like the main actors are like with this lion.
Yeah,
It's
but
like, how
you're
did
saying
they do
that, but like in 1971, how else are they going to do a
Yeah.
lion? Like, it's not going to be a CGI.
Oh, there was some bits I thought like the close-ups where people are handing the money over the counter. I think there's a sort of out of focus close-up, just a bit of a lion rather than the real one.
yeah.
What did you say? Did I like it?
Yeah, is it any good?
You can say no. You can just say no.
I've seen it. I'm glad I've seen it.
Right.
But it wasn't that.
So it wasn't a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand it. I don't know if it was just what I was watching on the audio was really crap, but some of it was like really badly dubbed. I knew that Knick Knack from Bond was dubbed because he didn't have the squeaky voice that he does in The Man with the Golden Gun.
Maybe he was dubbed in The Man with the Golden Gun.
Cool. Right, shall we move on then?
So I was given Riders of Justice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, directed by Anders Jensen. I think was it Norwegian? I think it's a Norwegian.
It's
Danish, sorry, Danish film, which has Mads in the lead, playing a character called Marcus. I watched it with subtitles.
Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes you can get these films that it's dubbed over.
Yeah.
And the concept of it, I would say the storyline was very well put together, but the genre's mixed in with it. It was sort of like a dark comedy with action, with a bit of drama twist to it.
Yeah.
And the character that Mads plays in it, he doesn't have many emotions.
Yeah.
He's a bit dead inside. And he works overseas for the military. He finds out that his wife's died. He comes home. He sort of comforts his daughter in a way that he does with his character. But then this wacky geezer comes along and says he thinks that there was a hit. It was an assassination attempt of some sort.
Yeah.
So then he basically teams up with these three guys and goes on the hunt for this Riders of Justice.
So this was my recommendation, by the way.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for you, but just Into the Lucky Dip. And yeah, one of the reasons I liked it was because they're kind of like geeks. They're sort of nerds that he's teaming up with, and he's obviously a soldier, and he's kind of like you say, he's not. Doesn't show his emotions.
Well, there's a scene in it. There's a really good scene. He comes through a door and he speaks to this guy, and the guy holds a gun against his head, and he says, "Take your 3 little fucking piggies away with you." And as he walks off, he says, "All right, okay." That just sort of, he basically just says that just shows what we're coming up against. He knocks on the door again, comes in, breaks the guy's neck, and as if nothing's happened.
Yeah.
And you just think, "Fucking hell."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the concept. I like it. I like it. I don't think it's had much sort of acknowledgement out there.
No, it seems to have gone under the radar. If I'm putting into the lucky dip, that's what I want. I want it's a film that someone's not seen, and I want a film that I think is kind of gone under the radar.
I also, after I watched it, I looked on YouTube some reviews on it and stuff, and there was a scene in it where they get shot at, and this guy shoots him, and the weapon misfires. He takes it off him, smacks him in the face with it, and shoots him back. But it's got no sights on it,
right?
So he's holding it in a funny way. And I watched this interview thing where Mads was being interviewed, and he said like the technical advisors, the military advisors who were on that, showed him how to use it like that, because the way they work with some of the weapons is slightly different with the sights that are not on top. So this is a prime example of how you explain to people, some things aren't how they're meant to be, because it's done in a different way. But the character in a whole, it's he's very he doesn't have many emotions.
I think as a film, as a concept, it's kind of about a group of unlikely people who are all helping each other in some way. Because they do eventually, I think, help him through that grief cycle that he's going through, and they help him with his relationship with his daughter as well, which is. But I'd recommend it to you guys as well. I think it's.
I think I want to watch it.
I would highly recommend it. Yeah, I would highly recommend it.
The dark humour in it is the thing that, because it's Scandinavian, I think they do that really well. They have this way of introducing something, and you're really not sure if it's supposed to be funny or not, and you're kind of on that, like, right on the cusp of thinking, this is kind of odd, but I think this is funny.
Well, the guy who plays Marcus, Mads, the actor we all know, he did another film. I can't remember what it was called, where he was like a hitman or something. I can't remember what it was called. Do you know? What was it called? I found the characters quite similar with their mannerisms.
Yeah.
It's good. I liked it. I'd highly recommend it to watch it. Yeah.
I'll stick that on the list.
Okay, and
I'm very sorry for breaking the format this week, unforeseen circumstances, but I watched an absolute pile of trash. Can I say that? That's a bit harsh. Pile of trash. It was really bad. Called No Way Up on Amazon.
I've seen this.
Have you seen?
Is that with Leonardo DiCaprio?
No.
Wait a minute.
What's that called?
Don't Look Up.
Oh, Don't Look Up. Shit, sorry.
No Way Up.
Wait a minute.
It's a shark film.
It was the number one film on Amazon. I watched this the other day.
Have you seen it?
Thing is, it came up on my Amazon. Like, I was just like, and I like doing that. The first thing it comes up, okay, I watch it blind, not knowing anything, and like the first 10 minutes or whatever, I was like, this is cheesy as.
I was laughing.
But then when it gets sharky and stuff, it was all right. But it gets Fergal. My main thing is, right, see if you picked this up. So it's starring Cole Meany as a sort of security guy protecting this politician's daughter.
I know him as Charlie's dad from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
So he's Irish, right?
Yeah.
This film was written for Liam Neeson.
And
it must be, and I reckon he passed it up because of how.
Well, do you know what the budget was? It's only $2 million, so I gave them some, leeway with that, because it's not a big budget for what they were trying to do with the film.
I mean, it's just on a plane, isn't it? Even if the plane's underwater, it's still small set.
But the CGI's passable at points.
I need to watch it now.
Yeah,
I have to watch it.
But what I'm gonna say is they don't lean into the ridiculousness enough for it to be a good B movie. You know what I mean? It's not a Piranha. Or they don't take it seriously enough that it's like a Deep Blue Sea, which is, I think, is a good shark film. You know what I mean? It's passable. But it has a lot of similarities to that. I won't spoil it because I spoil everything every week. I've just been doing non-stop spoilers. But I mean, sharks swimming up the aisle of a plane. I know it's ridiculous.
Sharks on a plane.
Essentially it's sharks on a plane. Yeah.
But again, not leaning into it enough. Yeah. But $2 million budget, which is a small budget, but people at home save the time, and I wouldn't bother
Can you recommend a different shark film then?
Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
LL Cool J.
LL Cool J.
And does someone get totally munched at the end?
Well,
No.
spoilers. Someone gets munched in the middle.
Start. Yeah, the middle.
By the way, on a different note, another underwater one that is totally underrated in my opinion, although I've not seen it in years, might be shite rewatching it. Deep Star 6. Remember what? No?
Never seen it.
Like 89, 90 or something. It's very sort of off the cusp of abyss and aliens and stuff,
Okay,
but
yeah.
it's like they discover this huge, big creature. The guy that plays Bob Morton in RoboCop.
Oh yeah,
Miguel, he's the main guy in it.
he
And
was in a
there's-
few things.
There's some spectacular deaths in it, especially his.
So
Okay.
I could
it's,
spoil it.
it's weird. It's weird that we should get onto the subject because my original Lucky Dip pick was Underwater, the film Underwater,
Right.
Which is again inspired by the abyss and films like that, and similar to that in that they're stuck underwater. But if you haven't seen that, you should seek it out. The only reason I didn't submit it was because I think it's on Disney Plus, but I don't know where else you can see it. So, but it's good. It's seriously good.
Cool.
And yeah. So
Well, I think that should about wrap things up,
Yeah.
time-wise. So, I was a crap guest. I hardly spoke.
You're not a guest.
You're
I
not a
spoke
guest.
too much.
Oh, yeah. Crap guest, crap host.
No. I get
Ian led that loads, and you spoke loads. You were brilliant.
Thank you.
think I
So
get
good. I think we should get you back sometime.
I'll be delighted, and thanks for having me today. It's been
Yeah.
appreciated.
No
Thanks for your
worries.
time.
No,
And
pleasure.
Any tips or advice that was given to the audience that are listening, then take them on board. So I think
No, really good advice.
Yeah, definitely.
thank
Don't
you.
forget, smash that like, subscribe button. Can't believe I just said that like a knobby YouTuber.
You're a knobby YouTuber. And also submit your films to the Lucky Dip.
Yeah.
Please make sure they're like we can at least steal them on a pirate site somewhere, not too obscure. Can I say that?
No.
We're going to pay for them. We're going to pay for them if we can.
Yeah, make sure they're under a $5.
Cheers, guys. Catch you next time.
Right.